Well, since we are, at this point a couple days from premiere, if anyone's undecided about watching Salem, what would you want to tell them to convince them to tune in?
This is going to sound weird, but I wouldn't understand why anybody would be undecided about watching this premiere. If you don't end up liking it, or it's not your, cup of tea afterwards, then I guess I could understand that a little bit more. But I don't know. For me, I'm really into this type of genre. I'm really into these type of, not necessarily shows, but just film in general, stories in general. And it's hard to tell from a first episode because you only get the trailers to entice you and to get you on board. And then after the first episode, it's really just a big cluster of trying to show you the world, show you all these characters, not fully developed because it takes the season to develop it. So it's a hard job for a first episode. But I feel what we've done, also being on episode 9 as we speak, this is a really rad show. Like, I haven't been a part of something that I could be so confident about in a long time, from every aspect of it. And what's fun about the genre as well is having the scares, the glimpses of nudity, whatever it might be, as much as we can get away on basic cable, which clearly we got away with a lot.
Yeah.
To me, everyone can have their own reviews, but to me, has been done to further the storyline. It's been done to me in an appropriate way that's not just there just to shock you or to scare you. It's furthering the storyline. And as you see in episode 2, 3, and 4 and things like that, you go, oh, okay, I get it a little bit more with certain things like that. So it's really an exciting time.
After the first episode, John comes back to town. Where does he find his place in the town going forward?
Well, I know it's very easy to say after John comes back and sees that everything is fallen to crap, that he should just say, well, I'm out. I'll go to New York or go somewhere else. But the things that keep him there are, and you find out a little bit as the season goes on, but is the passion for his town. His father helped found the town. They're the firstborn of this, he and Mary Sibley and Cotton Mather are the firstborn of this new world. It's the American pride, like I guess the true American pride at the time, that keeps him there. And the other major thing that keeps him there is the love story, and is the fact that Mary Sibley is the only person he's ever loved and doesn't understand. There's something off. Like, he obviously doesn't know, as the viewer gets to know. He doesn't know what's going on with her, and he doesn't understand how she could have married someone as awful as George Sibley, who now is even paralyzed. So it's, that intrigue kind of keeps him there as well.
What was it like doing a series? I noticed that Take 5 produces Salem as well as Vikings. Mm-hmm. There's this element between the two shows where there's unknown science and explanations for things, and so there's this mystical element kind of that exists. That's not fiction per se, but is believed to be out there. What was it like trying to do something and have that element be a part of the show?
I think it's fun because, at the time, they're in a time of paranoia. Historically, in a time of paranoia, there was a lot of elements you can kind of play with. So with us, you can go just to the physicality of certain things, like possibly the first type of flashlight, the first type of bathtub, the first type of all those kind of things we can kind of play with. We try and stay as accurate as we can, but a lot of it, Cotton Mather is almost the scientist of our town. So we play a little bit around with the history of him potentially creating a lot of these things because he's the scientist of our town. Whether that happened in reality, probably not, but it's something that we can kind of mess with. The fact that who's to say what witches or ghouls or goblins even looked like at that period, because we're talking the 1690s, we can control that. We're by taking place in the 1690s, we're kind of any show that's modern now, we can almost even lie and say they took from us because historically they have. So we can kind of get away with murder on a lot of those things. There's some fun references which I think the horror geeks like myself out there will truly enjoy, which you would think wouldn't make any sense, but we have some cool references to, believe it or not, films that were made in the 80s that would technically steal from us now that we're in the 60s and 90s. So we're having fun with it, and I think we have a little bit of that leeway to it as long as it stays pure.
You mentioned the love story is one of the things that keeps him in town, and you mentioned, the audience does know she's a witch, but the audience also knows that he fathered a child with this woman that she got rid of. What kind of love and trust will kind of need to be held there, and what kind of foundation will be needed there in order to be a forgiveness, in order for that relationship to actually have a future?
It's a good question, because it, you know, if and when he finds out, who's to say how he's going to react? What I love about the setup, that will always be a major side note that we haven't played yet, that we'll get to be able to play at some point, which will be exciting, I think, for the viewer and also for us to actually do. Because currently the toughest thing right now is the fact that she is a witch, and of course he isn't aware of that yet. What I like about this love story is it sets this tone of almost the impossible, of how is this going to happen? How are you going to bring these two characters together? Maybe we don't. Who knows? I don't know in the longevity of the series, but how would you bring them together? And is it a love conquers all kind of thing? What's fun about it as you see the series progress is you get to see, especially for Janet Montgomery, for her characters, you get to see the humanity come out of who she is and how she starts to become what she used to be. And all because of John's return, and all because of the fact that she feels she's sold her deal with losing the child and making these decisions that she was forced into. And so not everything is, which makes for a good series, not everything is evil that seems evil, and not everything is wrong that seems wrong. Even John, who's the most heroic of the show, you quickly find out that he may have gotten out of war and out of being a prisoner of war while doing some pretty wrong things. So everyone's a flawed character in this series, and I think I think you'll see as the series progresses, how we're going to keep that love, bringing them together, pulling them apart, and where it goes from there. I've just been told how the first season might end, and that's going to be a cliffhanger. So we'll hope for season 2, because it'll be a pretty crappy ending if there isn't a second season.
So John and Cotton Mathers kind of are almost opposites in a lot of ways, and
for sure.
In the first episode, Cotton kind of takes away one of John's close friends. How does he react going forward? I mean, is that something that he interacts with Cotton over, or does he let it go?
Well, you'll see almost immediately, I think, possibly, if my memory is correct, first scene of episode 2, John practically beating the crap out of Cotton. So you see, we're not, as I had said before, as a lot of pilots are, episode 1 has to set the tone, and then episode 2 and 3 is reaction. How do you react to what we just said? So they're much more fast paced. They're more you get a lot more information out that way. But as time goes by, you see that Cotton's not a bad guy. He's just a little bit more flawed than most, or at least obviously flawed than most. And when John decides to stay in town, when he decides not to leave, they have the same thing in common, where they want to protect the town that they were born in, and they want to get rid of the witches that they get, and find the ones that are truly a witch and not hang all these innocent people. So they kind of become, in an odd way, not necessarily partners, but they have to almost work together. You can almost go into that cop comedy type thing of just Lethal Weapon type thing of just the opposites being forced together, and there's a lot of that as the series goes on, and I think it's one of the major things that's working on the show, because they're such opposites and are forced into circumstances they don't want to deal with but have to, because they're the only ones of power in the town that aren't necessary selectmen.
Thanks everyone. Thank you so much.
Okay.